God has a dream for your life. I want to say from the onset of today's episode that this really comes from the deep-seated and rooted faith upon which I live my life. And so as the listener, I want you to know that I'm really going to speak from my passion and my belief that God does indeed have a dream for your life. So I want to tell you about a story of a girl who once sensed that God had something big for her to do. She wasn't sure how to go about it, so she ended up considering many careers. The Air Force Academy, where she could have a long and disciplined career in the military, or aerospace, where she would go on to become one of the few women to go into space. But these required long-term commitments of her life. And so she chose to go on to school for a subject that she really enjoyed in order to teach others out of the passion for that subject. Imagine that 10 years later, two college degrees received, she senses that God has made her for teaching, but there's something more. She sees herself on a stage, speaking and teaching many people. She doesn't really understand how it's possible, but she writes it down and draws it out every opportunity that she gets. In 1997, that drawing went on a triangle activity and really would go on to be on multiples of those images year after year and through a whole series of God-orchestrated events. She steps on to a stage 10 years after that original drawing and delivers a speech in front of about 5,000 total people over the course of that morning. Afterwards, anyone who asked her, how did it go? It brought her to tears as she shared her dream realized. The gal in that story is me. And in 1997, when I was coaching a dance team at King High School, I would always take each year the team members through a triangle activity, much like you see here, where you're looking at past, present, and future. And it was in that future portion of that triangle where I first drew the picture of me on a stage with a lot of little heads down in front of me. I truly did not know exactly how that dream would come to fruition. And actually, as I'm even saying this, I suppose that this triangle activity was my first vision board. In some ways, at least, for that present and then that future hope that I had. And I still look back on that first major opportunity that I had in 2007 to speak to so many people with such deep gratitude for how God orchestrated things in my life. And interestingly, that same company, 11 years later, gave me the opportunity to be on the main stage where I delivered a training for about 7,000 people. And truly, I just knew and had been reaffirmed that God had a dream for my life. I want to ask you, do you believe that you were born for something? Because in this episode, I really want to tell you that just like me, God has a dream for your life. Since the beginning of man as we know it, God has been creating dreamers. Listen to this. Adam dreamed of a suitable helper just right for him. Abraham dreamed of a son he could call his own. Jacob dreamed of making Rachel his wife. He actually worked 14 years for the right to marry her. Joseph dreamed that his brothers would bow down to him. Moses dreamed of his people being free. Joshua dreamed of leading the Israelites into the promised land. David dreamed of being a man after God's own heart. And it goes on and on. And so when we think about God has a dream for your life, I want you to think, what were you born to do? In 2007, after I was able to deliver that first opportunity to be in front of so many people, I left there knowing I was born for this. What about for you? In this series of God Has a Dream for Your Life, I want to first look at receiving your dream mission. I believe many struggle to know what their God-given dreams are because our minds, I'm going to put myself here as well, we're filled with agendas and lists and obligations and, worst of all, reasons why we don't believe that we can have what seems to be an inexplicable desire in our lives. Man, that challenge with lack of belief that we're good enough, strong enough, talented enough, whatever it is, that is incredibly challenging in people really actually receiving their dream mission. My prayer as you listen to this episode or as you watch it, that you would pull away from the agenda, that you would set aside the lists, that you would quiet the obligations that keep coming to your mind, and that you would choose to quiet yourself in order to better grasp the dream that God has for you. I like to call it a dream mission. Your dream mission is this. It is the convergence of doing what you love most while meeting needs at the same time. I want to repeat it. Your dream mission is the convergence of doing what you love most while meeting needs at the same time. So if we're to receive a dream mission, I want us to look at multiple aspects of that. First, it's the recognition that you were created in God's image. Genesis 1:27, in the image of God, he created them, male and female, he created them. Or in Psalm 139, 13 through 16, David is talking to God and it states, you made all of my delicate inward parts of my body. You knit me together in my mother's womb. Thank you for making me so wonderfully complex. Your workmanship is marvelous. How well I know it. You watched me as I was being formed in utter seclusion, as I was woven together in the dark of the womb. You saw me before I was born. Every day of my life was recorded in your book. Every moment was laid out before a single day had passed. You were made or created in God's image. Another aspect of receiving your dream mission is to accept who you are. Why? Because who you are determines what you actually see, how you see others, how you view your life, and also it impacts what you do. So let's first look at who you are determines what you see. We all walk into the same room, yet we perceive it differently. I might notice what people are wearing. You might notice their hair color. Someone else might notice who all's speaking or not speaking, where they're standing. But how we perceive comes through the lens of who we believe ourselves to be. Please hear me. What is around us doesn't determine what we see. What is inside of us determines what we see. Really understanding who we are then affects what we see. Understanding who we are, though, also affects or impacts how we see others. If I'm trusting, I will see others as trusting. If I am critical, I will see others as critical. By simple observation of listening to how someone speaks of others, you can determine a great deal about who they are. I want you to think about that. A great exercise that each of us could go through is to really ask people that are important in our lives to share with us what they hear from us in terms of how we speak about others. Because how we are speaking about others is really more about how we see ourselves and who we believe we are, because it comes out in how we view other people. I like to say to myself, it takes one to know one. What I mean is, if I see something in you that I don't like, that annoys me, that bothers me, that angers me, whatever that is, I can see it in you. Why? Because it's in me. It takes one to know one. Also, who we are impacts how we view our lives. If what inside of you stinks, then everything around you will stink. Your personal frame of reference that consists of your attitudes, your assumptions, your expectations concerning yourself, other people in life, they factor into our view, be it optimistic or pessimistic, cheerful versus gloomy. It all impacts how we view our lives. So I want to challenge you. Think about how you view your life and then work that backwards to really begin to identify how is it impacted by who you believe yourself to be, who you are. So who we are determines what we see, how we see others, how we view life, and lastly, what we do. We make decisions about what we can and cannot do based on who we are. It is impossible to separate our thinking and our attitudes from who we are. And if we have separated it, then we're looking at other more psychological, challenging aspects that can impact us in other more profound ways. We must believe that and I'll just speak for myself. I know that I must believe that who I am is exactly who God created me to be. Who I am, the things that set me apart from others or from someone else, it's not wrong. It's just different. Who you are, the things that set you apart, different from others, is not wrong. It's just different. I don't have to aspire to be like everyone else. I want to aspire to be the woman that God desires me to be. Author and speaker Nay Bailey once said, "Imagine the movie was made of your life. Nothing was left out. Everything that you have ever thought or said or done was displayed on a big screen television for everyone to see. How would you feel?" I don't know about you, but I would be horrified, mortified. I mean, it is one thing to consider all the really bad things, but to have all of my secret thoughts, my feelings revealed would be awful. I believe that in reality, there is truth in this for all of us. Nay goes on to say, God has seen your movie and he loves you anyway. That is a wow statement. God has seen my movie and he loves me anyway. Let that sink deep into your heart and into your soul. Sheila Walsh, author of God Has a Dream for Your Life, states, the God of the universe, the one who holds the stars and the moon in place, knows everything about you and loves you with unprecedented abandon. He knows the good, the bad, and the ugly. He knows the things you're proud of and the things you hide. He knows it all, and he invites you to come just as you are and live the dream that he has for you. Anytime I read that quote from Sheila Walsh, I think of a song that I heard growing up all the time in church, Just As I Am. And it talks about come just as you are. I encourage you, choose to come just as you are. Another aspect of receiving your dream mission would be to ask God to help you see it. One of the most pivotal verses in my life I came across back in the fall of 2005. It's found in Ephesians 1, and it's 17 through 20. The God of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of glory, give to you a spirit of wisdom and revelation in the knowledge of him, that the eyes of your understanding would be enlightened, that you may know the hope of his calling. What is the glorious riches of his inheritance in the saints? What is the exceeding greatness of his power of those who believe, according to the working of his mighty power, the same power that he used to raise Christ from the dead. I kept asking God to open my eyes, give me wisdom, reveal yourself to me. I prayed that over and over again. And the more I repeated that verse over and over again, meditated on it, thought about it, spoke it, the more it meant to me, the more I began to see and hear things differently in my own life, as I have better understood who God has made me to be in his imaginative, equipping way, giving me all the things that I need to accomplish his plan for my life. I have been able to receive my dream mission. It's my driving passion. It is the purpose that gives my life meaning, and it is the very thing that I was born to do. On my board over here to my side, my purpose statement is written that I desire to be an influence, a positive force in the lives of individuals and organizations. And I'm able to do that through the written word and the spoken word. So today, I want to submit to you that God has put a driving passion in you to do something special. Why wouldn't he? He created you in his image, the only person exactly like you in the universe. No one else can fulfill your dream mission just like you. No one else can perform your dream mission just like you. Will you journey towards your big dream? Will it change you if you do so? Absolutely. In fact, the journey itself is what prepares you to succeed. I wouldn't have this podcast. I wouldn't have the opportunities to speak that I do if I did not go through the last years and years. I mean, more than 20 years when I think about sharing this with you right now, from 1997 to at the time of this recording, 2024. Ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about more than 25 years of journeying, of learning, of being disappointed, of having mountaintops, of having valleys, of feeling passed over, of having great opportunities. Each of those have been part of changing me. It is about the journey, not just the destination. It is about who we are becoming. And so will you pursuing your dream mission change you? Absolutely, it will. What I know is when I speak, I feel the pleasure of the Lord. It brings fulfillment and love in my life that words cannot adequately describe. I know that it is part of my dream mission. And my prayer is that you are willing to be open to receive what God has for you in this. First, recognizing that He has a dream for your life and a willingness to receive it by knowing that you are created in His image, by accepting who you are, because it impacts everything about your life. And then truly being willing to ask God to help you to see it. Here is what I know. When you are willing to take action on some of the things that you have heard today, it will impact how you think. And you know, my heart, my passion, my mission in this podcast is that you would cultivate thinking that matters so that you can live a life that matters. And I will tell you that part of living a life that matters is embracing the dream that God has for you.